we're really happy to welcome all of you to our first ever webinar on conservation champions. And with this, I'm going to pass my time to the moderator for today, Vera. All right, so over to you, Vera.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Tingy, for a very exciting start to the webinar. I was rooting for KWS. Ooh, happy that you won. Okay, so very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday afternoon for the first ever Conservation Champions webinar. Today, we will feature the most iconic animal in Singapore Zoo, the orangutans. So an animal very close to Mandai's heart. My name is Vera. I'm from the education team in Mandai Wildlife Group, and I'm happy to have this privilege today to moderate this webinar. So before we begin, let's go through some housekeeping matters. This is a webinar, so viewers, your mics are muted throughout the session, but you may use the chat function to express yourself. You may want to say hi to everyone. If you've never used the chat function before, you could just do a practice one and say hi. Good morning, my name is, hope you're well. Or maybe type in your favorite animal. Hi, I am Vera. My favorite animal is rabbits, for example. And then during the webinar, if you have any questions at all for the speakers, you can, we would love to hear them. You can put the questions into the Q&A function, which is on my screen. It's right next to the chat button. Might look a bit different from yours, but it says Q&A, and that is the function to put in questions that we will be able to see and answer at the end of the session. So this session will be 1 hour and 15 minutes long, at least that's what we are aiming for. Please note also that this webinar will be recorded and it will be made available for rewatching after today. Okay. So just a bit of information about the entities that jointly organize this webinar. So Mandai Wildlife Group as well as Mandai Nature. Let me just do a quick introduction of these two. So Mandai Wildlife Group was formerly Wildlife Reserve Singapore, and we are dedicated to caring for and protecting the planet and nature. Mandai Wildlife Group is the steward of internationally accredited wildlife parks, Singapore Zoo, River Wonders, Night Safari, which are all located in Mandai Wildlife Reserve, as well as Jurong Bird Park. We are also driving an exciting rejuvenation plan at Mandai Wildlife Reserve that will integrate 5 wildlife parks with distinctive nature-based experiences, green public spaces, and eco-friendly resort. And we advocate for biodiversity, contribute leading wildlife research, develop innovative solutions to promote living sustainably, as well as collaborate with conservation partners in Singapore and Southeast Asia. And one of these partners you will hear from shortly after this. Now, Mandai Nature is a not-for-profit conservation organization established in December 2020 by Temasek and Mandai Wildlife Group. Mandai Nature aims to advance efforts for nature conservation in Asia with a focus on protecting threatened species from extinction, protecting and restoring ecosystems, creating benefits for local communities, and driving nature-based solutions to mitigate climate change. So without any further ado, let's go straight into our program. So this is what we have today for you. We'll start off with a quick introduction, both of the speakers as well as the topic as a whole, orangutans. We'll talk a bit about conservation and sustainability in Mandai. And then next we get to chat with the keeper. And he will share a bit about caring, how we care for orangutans in Singapore Zoo. Then we will talk, and then we will get, we have a sharing on orangutan conservation in Sumatra, and then we end off with a question and answer session. So these are our speakers for the day. We're very privileged to have Kumaran Shashi, assistant curator in our animal care team in Mandai Wildlife Reserve, as well as Fransisca Ariantinginsi. I hope I got that right, Fransisca. Director in Yayasan Orangutan Sumatra Lestari and Orangutan Information Centre. So, so a bit about orangutans before we begin. I'm sure our viewers are already interested in wildlife. I think many of you might be also interested in how we conserve orangutans in their natural habitat. So where exactly are these guys? 3 species of orangutans. The Bornean orangutan is found in Borneo, which is on this map is demarcated in the dark red patches. Sumatran orangutans and the Tapanuli orangutans, which are fairly newly discovered species, in the orange and yellow patches. It's also worth saying that all 3 species of orangutans are all critically endangered species, and quite a lot needs to be done before we can say that they are safe. So that's the topic of our webinar today. So something that distinguishes great apes, including orangutans, is that they are very highly intelligent animals. One way that we can ascertain this is through their tool use. Right? They've been observed to be able to make different tools for different functions. They are also they've also been known to secure tools, to keep tools close by when they anticipate that they can use it in the future, which is something that you might recognize as something very human to do as well. And what do they use these tools for? Most of the time, they use it to get food that might be difficult for them to get with just their hands. They might also use tools for physical comfort. For example, to wrap their hands as a padding when they want to pick up something prickly, for example. Or they might just do it for fun. They might just use something that that helps them have a good time. So why is this important to highlight? Because studying tool use in orangutans actually gives us some insight in how we as a species, humans, have evolved. So I'm going to share a couple of videos that kind of illustrate how the orangutans in Singapore Zoo have been using tools both for fun as well as to get some yummy treats. So this one that I'm going to share is our orangutan Merlin, who used a gunny sack to make himself a
you.
If you can hear people talking in the background, everyone's really amused, and Merlin is really just there chilling in his new hammock. And then the other one that I wanted to share is also involves Merlin. Merlin is a very innovative, one of our very innovative orangutans. So I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry, let me just get things organized. Yeah, so that was Merlin and his friend Rudy trying to get some yummy treats out of their enrichment feeder, which the keepers have placed in their exhibits for them. And what I love about this video is how they used many different tools to get the job done when they realized that one of the tools wasn't working, right? So they first used one of the tweaks, and then they found doesn't really work very well. Let's try another thing. Let's use my tongue, and that quality is really just so really speaks about how they are very flexible in their thinking, as well as able to innovate and improvise, right? So another thing to note about orangutans is that they are forest engineers. So what do I mean? They are pretty large animals, and as they move through the canopy, they tend to bend and break vegetation as they travel. And because they are, as I said, fairly large, this change in the canopy is fairly significant. Right? And what this does is it creates new opportunities for other animals to use the canopy in a different way. So for example, the path that they've created through the canopy might be a nice flight path for birds in a very otherwise, in a canopy that otherwise would be very dense and full of branches, right? Or as they pass, they might disturb and displace invertebrates that are in the trees that other arboreal animals that live in trees might not be able to access otherwise. So I think one of the questions in the Kahoot was why are orangutans called gardeners of the forest? And it was because they are able to disperse seeds in the forest and help, and really help the forest to regrow and to keep the forest ecosystem healthy. Right? And what's different about the orangutans being seed dispersers is that being large animals, they are able to swallow, process and swallow larger seeds that smaller animals might not be able to. They also travel very long distances and quite far out when they are foraging. So they are able to carry these seeds further than most animals would, right? And so studies have found that when orangutans process, either spit out, either kind of process the food in their mouth and spit out the seeds, or after it's passed through their gut and it comes out in their poop. And for some of the seeds, germination is a lot quicker and a lot better. You get better quality plants after that happens. So, you know, orangutans are really very integral part of the rainforest ecosystem. And without orangutans, really the ecosystem would just not be the same, and which is all the more important to protect orangutans so that we can protect the rainforest, which, as we know, benefits everyone, including humans. So what are some things that are actually threatening orangutans, right? One of the main threats to orangutans is habitat loss through deforestation, and mainly for agriculture, where they are, and agriculture which includes oil palm cultivation. Having their forest homes cut down also means that they might have to travel, or they may travel into the agricultural land in search of food, into plantations, such as durian plantations, to kind of raid crops. And of course, if you're a farmer, you wouldn't like that. That results in a lot of human-wildlife conflict as well, in which most of the times orangutans get the losing end of the stick. The other thing that is of concern as well is illegal hunting for the pet trade. So it is not uncommon to see baby orangutans kind of in houses as pets, and they've been taken from the wild. So what do we do in Mandai to save and protect orangutans and other wildlife? Several things. So the first thing is that as we run our business, as we run our parks, we operate as sustainably as we can. We lighten our footprint so that we protect wild habitats as much as we can. We also use our parks and our living collection to advocate for wildlife. And the animal care team, as well as the conservation and research team, contributes research, both of our living collection as well as contributes research to the wider scientific community and animal care community globally. And our breeding programs help us to manage our animal collection in a healthy way and in a sustainable way when under human care. Beyond our parks, we support conservation projects through Mandai Nature, both in Singapore as well as in the region. So in a bit, we will hear a bit more about our animal care from our animal care team, as well as from a team in Sumatra which is supporting conservation of orangutans. In Mandai, one of the sustainable initiatives that we have is the implementation of our green procurement policy. So as part of our plan to operate sustainability, we implemented this policy in 2019. What this really is that it commits us to work with suppliers to procure more sustainable goods and services. And what this and practically what this kind of entails is that tender specifications now incorporate our sustainable requirements, and we evaluate our vendors based on their sustainable specifications as well. And this way we contribute to the demand in the supply chain for sustainable goods, such as sustainably sourced palm oil. And we use our influence to get suppliers and vendors to supply more sustainable products as well. So one of the results of this is that currently 100% of our cooking oil used in F&B outlets is sustainably sourced palm oil. And all the paper products that we use in park is FSC certified. So when you visit our parks as well, you are already actually contributing to conservation. So your visit comes with conservation included. And what do we mean by that? Mother Nature supports 40 conservation projects in Singapore and the region. And you can see on this map where these projects are located. And when you visit us, a part of the proceeds from your visit goes towards these projects and to support wildlife conservation. And you also help us to care for wildlife better in our parks. So visitors in our parks are always engaged in conversations with our staff about how to live sustainably. So we use our living collection and the unique stories that kind of spin off from this unique collection. We use them to share why living sustainably is important for wildlife and our guests. So one of the animals that is very iconic and always catches people's eyes and always and we always get brilliant conversations about is the orangutans at Singapore Zoo. We have a really healthy population here at the zoo, and it's really thanks to the great care that the animal care team has taken care of, has given to the orangutans. And so today we are really happy to have with us Kumaran, who is the assistant curator of animal care team. He's here to share with us how he cares for orangutans in the Singapore Zoo and how this is significant to orangutan conservation in the wild. So hey Kumaran.
Hey Vera, good morning.
Good morning. So do you want to share with our viewers a bit more about yourself?
About myself, I am Kumaran. This is my first job after I completed my national service, and I'm loving the zoo. I come into nice, fresh sounds of birds and primates, and I look forward to coming to work every day. You know, I've got two lovely kids who also love coming to the zoo from a very young age.
Oh, that's lovely. So, how long have you been with the zoo already?
24 years plus. I've been working in the zoo.
Okay. Oh, that's a really good long time. Did you always want to work in the zoo?
Not when I was growing up, even though I loved a lot of animals. The love started when I was serving my national service. I was a police officer and I was helping capture all those snakes that were considered pests last time. and used to bring them and hand over to the keepers in the zoo. And each time I would always volunteer to send the snakes over to the zoo and have a chat with the keepers. So from there, my love for snakes started. And then the moment I completed my national service, I immediately applied for a position in the zoo, and I was thankful that I got it.
Cool. So then, and that's where you started working with orangutans. But
Yes, correct. After I joined the zoo, I tried asking for a position in the herpetology department, but there wasn't a vacancy. So I was posted to the orangutan section. Initially, I was a bit taken back because I really wanted to work with snakes. But as the months passed, I was amazed by their smartness, how gentle and loving these uh, creatures were, and their strength. So I started learning more about orangutans and doing a lot of research, talking to my senior staff, and time has passed, and I've been all the way with the orangutans after that. Yeah. Spending a lot of time watching documentaries on orangutan. Um, Given any opportunity about orangutan, I always was keen to know, how we can build a bond with them, how we can work closely with them. Being such intelligent creatures, how can we improve their life? So I was constantly thinking of ideas to enrich their life in the zoo, come up with ways to give them a toy like a gunny sack or even a rattan basket, and just sit down and observe how these little guys enjoy playing with these kind of toys. You know, amount of wonderful things they can do with a gunny sack. It's really amazing.
yeah, like we saw earlier, right?
Yeah, Merlin.
With
Merlin
Merlin.
is just one of them. There's others, especially when it's raining, you can see them using the gunny sack as a shade, or on a very hot day. Some of them, if you come to the zoo, you definitely see them. Some of them will go into the gunny sack and then they'll just roll down the exhibit, and
Thanks.
another one will pounce, and then they are a bundle of joy to spend the day observing.
I think you must be so lucky. I always feel
A lot of them,
that's
a lot
the
of
job,
them
best
say,
job in the world.
yeah, a lot of them tell that to us, me and my team, that we've got the best job. Besides, I would say yes, it's a very fulfilling and enjoyable job, but it's also a lot of physical work, and mentally we have to try things to, keep our orangutans engaged. They, being such intelligent creatures, they need a lot of mental and physical stimulation, so that they will not be bored in a captive environment. So we always come up with ideas to enrich their lives.
That's really amazing. Thank you for sharing your experiences.
Welcome.
What would you say? Do you have, you know, a very memorable moment or a very memorable experience in your 24 years working with orangutans that you might want to share?
Definitely, there's a lot of amazing moments and memorable moments, but the one I would feel very close to the heart is, I know I've built a strong bond and friendship when female orangutans trust me to touch or carry their babies immediately after birth. Uh, I was even privileged to help a female orangutan cut the baby's umbilical cord, and that was back in year 2000 October. It was just a few years after I joined, and after that, actually, I've been cutting most of the baby orangutans umbilical cord, helping the mom, going in to carry the baby, uh, just to weigh the baby or do a physical examination, and make sure the baby is drinking its milk from the mommy. Usually we stay 24 hours and we observe moms and babies, be it a first time mom or a seasoned mom. We do 24 hours observation round the clock to ensure both mom and baby are doing fine. They get their rest time, they get their quiet time, and vitamins similar to what humans get. We make sure the moment we are sure that they're pregnant, they get special vitamins, increased in food for a nursing mom, and post delivery, we also make sure both mom and babies are doing really well. Let them rest for a month before, slowly introducing them out with the group.
So you're almost like a co-parent. So I think we always enjoyed quite a lot of success with our orangutan breeding, and I think the youngest one that we had was Kansa.
Correct, baby Kansa.
Baby Kansa a couple of years ago, right?
Yes, and she's also our little baby who's like always catches visitors' eyes. She's always swinging around, hanging around, and doing what babies do best.
Yeah. So I think she's our 46th baby.
Yes, correct.
Right? Maybe would you be able to share with us why having a healthy population and having a good breeding program in the zoo might be important for orangutans as a species or as a group?
Yeah, definitely. I think 46 baby in slightly over 50 years is a good achievement for Mandai Wildlife Group. We then also send individual to other reputable zoos, partners to maintain a very healthy gene pool of orangutan under human care. Our work and research contributes best practice and healthcare knowledge to rescue centers and in the region to support their rehabilitation efforts. So saying that, I think, if I'm not wrong, we have sent a lot to different zoos. I personally have escorted some of them to settle down to other zoos so that we can expand their gene pool.
Yeah, and I think as we mentioned before, having the great thing about having a healthy population and a really nice orangutan exhibit as well.
Yeah,
is that it helps people to connect with nature better, right?
correct. It definitely, if you come to the zoo, if you look around, if you stand in front of the orangutan exhibit and you look all around, all you see is orangutans hanging out, doing what orangutans do best, just hang around and spend their day.
Yeah. So that's in the zoo. But in the wild, I think maybe it's might be a bit of a different story, and I think conservation looks quite different where orangutans actually are, right?
Yes.
Today we have a representative from the Orangutan Information Centre.
Yes.
And their work in Sumatra is something that we support, Mandai Nature supports. And I understand that I think you worked, not worked, but rather visited them in Sumatra before.
Yes, I did.
To just get a feel of their rescue work and help out with a few rescues. You want to share some of things that you saw, some things that you experienced?
Honestly, it was an amazing experience, especially as a orangutan keeper, to go out to the field and see how these guys are doing such a wonderful job saving these red apes in the wild. The team in Sumatra is so dedicated and passionate. Before I go further, I'm just proud that Mandai Wildlife Group actually supports such a great project. There are incidents where I witnessed in my 10 days there, the passion that these guys have in saving these apes. So there's one lead guy there. After weeks, he had just had a time to go back and see his wife and his kids. And I think he was there for a few hours before he got another call that a big male orangutan needed help in Aceh. And we were in Medan and he was back home. And immediately, without thinking, he made the round trip back to Aceh. And we were at least 12 hours away drive, and the team just packed, got ready and left, first thing in the morning, just to get there as fast as possible before sundown, so that the male orangutan could be safely rescued from a plantation without getting any injuries. And the drive there was not a smooth one because of winding roads, but we made it in time, just at around 5. And after tracking the male down, 65-kilo male was safely rescued from the canopy of the plantation and reintroduced that evening itself, that night. By the time we reintroduced that male back into an area, was close to midnight, with the people from the wildlife group being there to check, and release site was selected, and then they released. And by the time we all came back to our place to rest, was like 3 a.m. in the morning. And even then, the team that did the capture, who did most of the physical work, they were all full of energy and passion. I could see that in their eyes. They were like really doing it to save these animals in the wild. Hats off to the team in Indonesia, doing a wonderful job saving these apes.
That's really amazing and super inspiring.
Yeah, passionate. I would say these guys are very passionate.
Yeah. So I think, there are probably viewers here who are also passionate about conservation, right? That they also care about wildlife, but not everyone can rush off into the jungle to do what they do, right?
Yeah.
What is there anything you might suggest for people who care about orangutans, who care about wildlife? They can do something that they can do in their daily life to also have an impact.
Yeah. Actually, being aware of sustainably sourced product when you go shopping, that is actually a great part. We may not all be there for doing our part in the wild or in the field saving orangutans, but all our little actions of purchasing with a thought actually can help. And I know my workplace is using RSPO certified palm oil for our cooking product, which is a great step forward. Sometimes when I go to the supermarket, I notice families looking through the labels. Usually I don't go there and ask what are they doing, but I have a feeling they are just being very aware of sustainably sourced product. So they are probably looking at, when they grab an oil or any palm oil related product, I think they are taking a step forward in being aware of sustainably sourced product. So these people are also actually contributing a lot to conservation by playing their part in purchasing sustainably sourced product. And I would also like to add one more thing. I think saving or supporting or respecting wildlife can also get to know our local flora and fauna better. I think with the pandemic, most Singaporeans are out and about, exercising, either doing hiking or cycling in our nature reserve. We are noticing a lot of local species being spotted in our nature reserves and even common areas, right? You see a lot of nature, our local flora, local animals being spotted. Pre-pandemic, nothing much was being shared, especially in social media. And due to this pandemic, you see more people sharing lots of native wildlife that are being spotted. A good example, just outside Mandai, in the track 15, people are spotting mouse deers, hikers, cyclists, when they do trekking, they are or riding, they spotting a lot of mouse deers, lesser mouse deers. If you go down to Sungai Buloh Nature Reserve, king cobras, back then king cobras were very difficult to spot. Now, if you go down to our Sungai Buloh Nature Reserve, I think you can pretty much spot a king cobra if you really know where to find. Look for the photographers or a bunch of photographers gathered in an area, they probably spotted something. So they are the ones they are like the birds in the sky, you know. Sometimes when you go fishing, you look for those birds hunting down those prey. Yeah. And then even for that matter, more and more civets are also spotted in our neighborhood. And so actually all these are important for us. You know, every youth actually play a very important role in conservation or being an ambassador for our local species. Even my kids at home, they are learning more about these local species. So I make it a point to bring them to our nature reserves on weekends. Every weekend or every other weekend, we go down to Sungai Buloh or Mekrichi and teach them more about our local species. I think it's good for every youth or even Singaporean to play a part in conserving our local flora and fauna. Conservation wasn't big back then when I was growing up, maybe 30 years ago. But now you can see we are paying a lot of attention to conserving our local species and also globally.
Yeah, I think you're so right. That yeah, I really like your point about
Mama,
excuse me.
Yeah, all right.
I really like your point about
Mama, can you put on the t-shirt?
I really like your point about starting local before going global, right? Before we always think about conservation as all these global things that happen elsewhere. But actually, there is so much to be seen right where we are, so much to learn about right where we are. And I think we start the connection, we connect best with the things that are around us, right?
True.
And really starting out is something, starting out with a native wildlife is something that we really should do. I also really like your point about buying sustainable. I think when everyone does their part to
A tiny little part.
Yeah, a tiny little part to support sustainable products like sustainably sourced palm oil, I think that drives demand and sends a very clear message that people are looking for products that don't harm the environment. So thank you so much, Kumaran, for sharing
Welcome.
today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think now we will move on to the next segment, where we will be talking more about conservation that's happening in Sumatra. So a bit about, by way of introduction for the project, Mandai Nature supports conservation of orangutans in Sumatra, and they support the Orangutan Information Centre since 2015. And OIC, or rather the Human Orangutan Conflict Response Unit of OIC operates in North Sumatra and Aceh province. And we're very happy to have Fransisca today to share with us a bit more about her work. Here's a little teaser. I think Kumaran already gave you a little teaser of what their work entails. A job that requires so much dedication and so much passion and expertise as well. So without any further ado, let me introduce Fransisca.
All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Vera, for introducing me. And thank you very much for all of you from Mandai Nature for inviting me today to share a little bit about our story from Sumatra related with the conservation of orangutan in this island that is supported by Mandai Nature. Okay. As it has been introduced, my name is Fransisca Ariantiningsih. I am a director of Orangutan Information Centre, and Okay, I don't know whether I can share my screen now. Okay, yeah. I hope it's coming up now. Yep. Is it coming up, my screen?
Yes, we can see your
Okay.
screen.
All right. So as it has been introduced, I'm going to share a project that OIC done with the support from Mandai Nature since 2015, that is addressing human orangutan conflict in northern Sumatra. So first of all, I would like to give a little bit information, just a little bit about my organization. So my organization, well known as Orangutan Information Centre, we are a local NGOs based in Medan, North Sumatra province in Sumatra, Indonesia. And we are working and for the conservation of orangutans and their forest homes, especially in Sumatra. So to achieve our goals, we have 5 flagship projects. There is one is habitat restoration. In this project, we work to restore the habitat of orangutan in Aceh and North Sumatra province that has been degraded due to encroachment, land conversion, etc. And currently, we already restore more than 2,000 hectares and then planting more than 2.5 million trees. And then the second flagship project is Human Orangutan Conflict Response Unit. So this project we focus on the human orangutan conflict. So in this project, we have a team. We call it HOCRU team or Human Orangutan Conflict Response Unit that respond any calls or any report on human orangutan conflict. Currently, with the support of Mandai Nature and other donors, we are able to operate 3 HOCRU teams. 2 teams are operating in looser ecosystem, working to support and to conserve the Sumatran orangutan, and 1 team is working in Batang Toru landscape, focusing on the conservation of Tapanuli orangutan. And the third project that we have is community education and empowerment. So we are in OIC believe that community should play active role in the conservation, especially those that are living close to the orangutan habitat. Because so at the end they can become a guardian of orangutan. So we in this special program, we conduct awareness program to the community living around the habitat orangutan, and then also we also try to improve local people that living close to the orangutan habitat for their income and livelihood. So they can so the threats to the orangutan habitat and the orangutan itself that is caused by livelihood or search of income for the local community, it can be reduced. Because, for example, if they encroach the orangutan habitat because they want to get more harvest or more yield from their farmland, we will provide them with the training on sustainable agriculture practice, so they can still get good result or productivity from their current farmland without a need to encroach the orangutan habitat. And another program that we are implementing now is Forest and Wildlife Protection Unit. So this is much more related with the protection of the habitat and endangered species, also including the work related with law enforcement of wildlife trade. So in this project, we work, for example, with National Park to conduct regular monitoring. We call it smart patrol inside the Gunung Leuser National Park to minimize the illegal activity happening inside the national park. And beside it also, we work with the law enforcement agency related with forest and wildlife crime to deal with the wildlife trade, etc., and helping and monitoring the court process. So at the end, we can ensure that the poacher, for example, or the trader can get the maximum sentence to give a deterrent effect. And last but not least, we are also doing biodiversity survey and monitoring. It is mostly done in our restoration site to see the changes that are how the ecological function of the forest return after we do the restoration project. This also done in the wild population of Sumatran orangutan. For example, currently we are going to do a survey on the orangutan population, updating the current data of the orangutan population. So we know this is usually done every 10 years together with other CSO or NGOs concerned with orangutans. So it's done every 10 years, and we want to see is there any changes in the population, etc. Then this information will be used to develop policy and strategic plan for the conservation of orangutan in the future. Yep, so that's our programs in OIC. And today I want to focus a lot on the HOCRU or Human Orangutan Conflict Response Unit. And here, just to give you an overview, before Vera already gave an overview about how many species of orangutans currently. So as she has mentioned, there are 3 species. And for us in Sumatra, we have 2 species, that is Sumatran orangutan or Pongo eveli and Tapanuli orangutan or Pongo tapanuliensis. Sumatran orangutan found mainly in Leuser ecosystem, and it is estimated only about 13,830 orangutans left in the wild population, which is unfortunately divided into 8 meta populations. So it's they are not located in one big population, but it's separated in 8 meta population. Meanwhile, for Tapanuli orangutan, as already mentioned also by Vera, it just recently announced as different species. Before it was known as part of Sumatran orangutan, but recently it is announced in 2017. It's announced as a separate species, and this population only found in North Sumatra province, especially in Batang Toru landscape. And it's divided into several meta population in Western and East Batang Toru forest block, including some smaller population in some conservation area like Sipirok, Sibual-Buali, and Lubuk Raya. And both of these orangutan species are listed as critically endangered by IUCN. So this is the map, maybe because Singapore is not far from Sumatra, yeah. So maybe you are already aware about the location of this province. So we are working in Sumatra and Aceh province, and this is the distribution of orangutan in Sumatra. If you see the yellow line with the red color, so this is the distribution of Sumatran orangutan. The biggest one is the distribution of wild population, while you can see here also there is small red area. So this is the population of reintroduced Sumatran orangutan, meaning that this population is coming from Sumatran orangutan that previously kept by people as a pet and then going through a rehabilitation process until they are ready to be released in the wild. So they are released in the new habitat where there is no wild population at all, and we call it reintroduction population. And then if you see going a little bit down in Sumatra North Sumatra province, this is the area or the habitat of Tapanuli orangutan. Only small area ya compared to the Sumatran orangutan. So this is the Batang Toru landscape. And want to explain further about the habitat of each species. So for Sumatran orangutan, as mentioned several times, the distribution is in looser ecosystem. So looser ecosystem itself is a unique and globally important forest, which is located in the northern part of Sumatra, and it covering 2 provinces, Aceh province and North Sumatra province. And this is also one of the largest intact remaining forests left in Southeast Asia, with the size around 2.6 million hectares. In Indonesia, this area has been designated as a national strategic area due to its environmental protection function. And it also, besides consisting of remaining forests with a high biodiversity value, it also has 3 important pit swarm. So here is the pit swarm. Single swarm wildlife reserve, it is pit swarm, and then 3 clute swarm, and then 3 pas swarm. 3 of them hold vast stores of carbon and also an important habitat for Sumatran orangutan. And another important thing about looser ecosystem is this is also consists of contain a Gunung Leuser National Park, one of tropical rainforest heritage of Sumatra, together with Kerinci Seblat and Bukit Barisan Selatan National Park. So that's the habitat of Sumatran orangutan. And then besides Sumatran orangutan, looser ecosystem also has another key species, including Sumatran rhinos, which is very, very critically endangered at the moment. Less than 100, I think only less than 50 perhaps the population. Sumatran tiger, and then also Sumatran elephant. Those 4, including Sumatran orangutan, is the key species found in the looser ecosystem, and it's quite rare to find these 4 key species living together. I think looser ecosystem is the only places where they are living together, these 4 key species. And then this is the landscape of Batang Toru, the map showing the landscape of Batang Toru. So this is the western block, this is the eastern block, and then this is 3 conservation area mentioned earlier, Sibual-Buali, Sipirok, and Lubuk Raya, where the orangutan tapanuli is found. And if you see the lines here, this shows that this area is the distribution of tapanuli orangutan. So not all forests here are the habitats of the tapanuli orangutan. And similar to looser, tapanuli forest, Batang Toru forest block also contains several important wildlife species beside orangutan, such as we have Sumatran tapir, we also have tigers, and then Sumatran sero. And this is the picture of tapanuli orangutan with the twin babies, yeah, in the wild. All right, despite the importance of the orangutan in Sumatra, they also still experiencing traits. One is land conversion, and then there is also encroachment and deforestation, habitat fragmentation, wildlife traits, and poaching and hunting. So if you see the pictures here on the right, so this is the picture of orangutan that we found isolated in the area that just cleared for farmland, for plantation, and our team is trying to conduct to rescue. So this has been tranquilized, and then yeah, but he's still moving. Okay, so talking about deforestation, I want to show you the link that deforestation has a strong impact to the human and orangutan conflict. So whenever deforestation occurs, it will usually lead to the human orangutan conflict incidents. So if you see here, the map here showing the looser ecosystem. So the left side, if you see the red color showing the deforested area. So here is the area that heavily deforested, this one also. And then on the right side, there is a map showing the incidents of human orangutan conflict and rescue that we done. So this one, you can see there are several dots, small square, etc. So this is showing the human orangutan conflict incident. So you can see that wherever the deforestation occur, there is also human orangutan conflict happening. And this also why we are really working hard to reduce the deforestation and also try to restore the area that has been deforested to provide or to bring back the habitat of orangutan. So that's for Loser. Similar happened to the Batang Toru area also. You can see here, this is the Batang Toru landscape. The red color again showing the area that heavily deforested. And then the green dots here showing where we did the rescue. So again, rescue or human orangutan conflict mostly occur where the deforestation is quite high. So OIC has been working for rescuing or dealing with human orangutan conflict since 2012. And from 2012 to 2021 now, we have rescued in total about 237 orangutans. In Loser, we have evacuate meaning that we rescue orangutan from the isolated habitat or isolated population and move them to the better habitat. So we have evacuated 154 Sumatran orangutan, and confiscating means we help the law enforcement or authority to take the orangutan kept illegally as a pet. So we have rescue about 154 orangutan from the isolated population, and then confiscate 75 Sumatran orangutan. And then for Batang Toru, it is quite small, but not meaning that the conflict is small, it's low, yeah. But because this data coming only from 2019. So we start working in Batang Toru since 2019. And so far we have evacuated 5 Tapanuli orangutan from isolated population and move them to the better habitat, and helping the process of confiscation 1 Tapanuli orangutan. So I want to show you a little bit the process that we are doing during the rescue operation. So for evacuation process, for us also, I want to remind you that for us, rescue is actually the last option. If it is possible, we will try to just drive away the orangutan back to the forest. But if there is no other option, for example, if the orangutan entrapped like this in the small forest patch, and then there is no other connection to the bigger forest, and there is a possibility of them to facing lack of food, and then also harm from human, because smaller area means that they encounter human more often than maybe be killed. So we will try to do the rescue. So once we locate the orangutan, and then the second step that we do is our team will try to tranquilize the orangutan. And so you can see here, it's not trying to kill the orangutan, the pictures, but showing how we try to tranquilize the orangutan. And then once the orangutan getting sedated, we expect that we are ready underneath the trees with the webs like this, and then the orangutan will fall safely here to the webs. Once the orangutan brought safely to the ground, we will do the medical checkup done by our veterinarian. So every single rescue always involve the veterinarian. Kumaran ever joined our rescue operation, and now how it is going, how hard it is. Sometimes the area, this one is quite good because the area is quite not hilly area, yeah, it's a flat area, so it's easy to hold the web. But in some cases, we have to rescue the orangutan in very steepy area, etc. And it's really challenging to hold the web. And then it's really hard to do the rescue operation. So after conduct medical checkup, if we found the orangutan in healthy condition, we will do the translocation like this. So this is the area. And again, because we want to bring them to the safer habitat, often the new habitat or the new homes for them, it should be go inside the forest, far from the community, etc. That's why sometimes we have to cross the river like this, the hawk crew team. And sometimes also we really have to walk deep to the forest. This is just a short video showing the translocation process. So this is one of the orangutan that we just rescue, and then we translocate this orangutan to the new forest home. For us, this is one of the best moment, I think, for the whole crew team. I do not know, Kumaran ever joined. Maybe he has also another, he can also express his feeling about it. But whenever we release the orangutan back to the safer habitat, it's like a kind of rewarding feeling for us, because we can ensure that another life of orangutan is, at least another orangutan is safe, another orangutan can survive in the new home. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So that's the nice story of the rescue. I mean, the rescue that succeed, or the orangutan that is healthy, etc., that can easily translocate to the new forest home. But sometimes we also found another cases where orangutan is injured. And the next slide, I will show you some pictures that may be disturbing for some of you. So if you feel so, you are advised to turn away for a while, because maybe it's not really comfortable for you. Thank you. So this is I want to show the condition of this some of the orangutan that we rescue. So not always in healthy, some of them having injuries, and some of them may be heavily injured. And like, for example, and some of them maybe have a fatalities, yeah, like this one, the eyes already blind. This one also, or the eyes already blind. And many of orangutan that we rescue has a rifle bullet inside their body. So a rifle gun is easily to get in Indonesia, and some people that is doing irresponsible thing, they use this to do hunting, etc. So for orangutan, maybe it's very small, but in some cases it can cause fatalities if it is more a lot of a rifle bullet inside their body. Like in 2018, we have a cases of orangutan Hope that has 70 rifle bullets inside her body, and her eyes also get shot, so totally blind. So this is some sad story about the orangutan that we rescue. And besides sad story from the orangutan that we rescue from the isolated population, unfortunately, a lot of orangutan also end up being kept as a pet by human like this. So the picture here showing one of the male orangutan that has been living in this cage since he was 3 years old. And when our rescue team found him and able to save him, I think he was about 20-something years old. So, and then this, by the way, this is Panut Hadisuswoyo. He is our founder of our organization. And yeah, he is the one that directly involved in the rescue. And you can see this door. So this is the door, the only door of this cage. So he used the door when he was still small, about 3 years old, and never left the cage since then. When he grow bigger, he never left the cage, this cage. So when we rescue, we have to cut off this bar, this steel bar. And because he never left this cage for a long time. So he was a little bit paralyzed. I mean, because he always sitting like this. So both of his leg was second and a little bit paralyzed. And he's in the rehabilitation process now, but seems like there is a very small possibility for him to be released in the wild, because he has been living in this cage for 20 years, never known other orangutan. Even in the rehabilitation center, he was scared when he saw another orangutan. He is much more comfortable with human rather than with another orangutan. So maybe he cannot be released at all to the wild, even though he's healthy, but he maybe cannot survive in the wild population. And this one also another story, one of the orangutan that chained by people, kept as pet, but it was chained just next to the house. So this is the wall of the house. So when it is rain, she got wet. When it is dry and hot, sunny day, he got the sun directly. So sometimes human can be more cruel than wildlife. Yeah. So this is some of the how we pretend that we love them by keeping them as a pet, but actually we take out their freedom. All right. So okay, beside orangutan, we also rescue another wildlife. Like this is only some of them. Agile gibbon. We also ever rescue sunbear, and then we also have ever released leopard cat, siamang, Sumatran elephant, and crested serpent eagle. And beside conducting rescue operation, we also try to raise people awareness about the importance of orangutan conservation. So we come to the villagers, give them information about orangutan conservation. We distribute the posters. We also have meetings with the stakeholders from forestry department, conservation agency, etc., to discuss about the conservation of orangutan. And we also work specifically with young people. We call it conservation leadership training, in which we select several young people coming from the area surrounding the orangutan habitat and giving them the training on the conservation issues. All right, as I said earlier that human-wildlife conflict mitigation can also lead to the wildlife trade. So whenever there is a human-orangutan conflict incidents, especially if there is a conflict between mother and the baby and the human, it may lead to the wildlife trade, because in many cases, especially for example, the cases of Hope, the baby orangutan can be taken by people and then end up in the wildlife trade. And from 2015 to 2021, we already recorded about 10 cases of orangutan trade. This is what we found out, but maybe there are more that we couldn't found out of the wildlife trade related with the orangutan. All right, so I have explained some challenges, some traits that orangutan population in Sumatra experience or facing. Now I would like to ask us to together taking action to protect orangutan, their forest, and their future in Sumatra. Kumaran earlier already stating some of action that you can done. I also want to highlight 3 things maybe that we want you to join with this action. The first is, please don't keep wild animals as a pets. Just leave wild animals in the wild, in the forest where it is their homes. Especially the COVID-19 pandemic, I think should teach us a lot that keeping wild animal as a pet is really dangerous. They can spread the disease to us. Remember about the zoonosis. And one thing about orangutan, because their DNA is 97% similar to human, the possibility of zoonosis even much higher. They have also similar disease like us, hepatitis, tuberculosis, and then also even they also found a variant of HIV in the orangutan also. So there is a big possibility for transferring disease from us to orangutan and vice versa. That's why better keep them in the wild, not keeping them in your home. And the second one, because more and more now forests are degraded, forests are deforested, let's join the reforestation program or try to reforest or green your areas if you can. Even if you can only planting trees surrounding your houses, it's also quite good because in terms of general issues, climate change, etc., it still help to provide a better environment for us. And also, if you cannot do at all any planting activities, you can join the tree adoption, tree donation, etc., to support the restoration project. And last, being an advocate and share with others. So just spread over the message about the conservation of orangutan and other species for a better future for us and then for our future generation. Okay, I think that's what can I share to you. Thank you very much for the time and for the attention. And if you have any question, I'm open for any question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fransisca. That was a very, very, very inspiring talk. And I just big kudos to you and your team for the wonderful work that you do for the orangutans in Sumatra.
Yes, thank you.
So I think I am very aware of the time. We have we're a little over time, and to our viewers, if you can stay around a little more, I think we'll spend maybe 10 more minutes just answering some of the questions that have come in. I think there are some quite interesting ones that you might want to listen to. If you can't, it's okay. The recording will be made available to you later on, and you can get access to that later. Okay. Now let's go through some of the questions here. All right, I think the first one is for Kumaran. How does the orangutan cut an umbilical cord or her baby's, the baby's umbilical cord in the wild if there's nobody, no keeper?
Okay. Before I start, I just like to say thank you, Fransisca, and your team for the wonderful work you guys are doing in the field. I've personally experienced, like what you mentioned, some of the terrains are not easy. The rescue that I went for took more than an hour to get the orangutan out. Yeah. Well, to answer the question, in the wild, most animals just bite off the umbilical cord of their offsprings, and then the small little scar will eventually dry and heal up by its own. But in captive environment, just to give some insight, we do similar to what the humans do. We just tie and then we cut, and then we keep that area really clean daily until the balance falls off.
Okay, it's really cool. I think another one for you, just to carry on the animal care thread. There's a question about how does Singapore Zoo continue the practice of taking temperature for the orangutans on a daily basis? And is the temperature similar, body temperature similar to human beings?
Okay. We actually started pre-pandemic. We've been practicing taking temperature for a while now. So we take temperature of orangutans twice daily, and we notice in the mornings the temperature is like 35-ish. They all fall under the 35.1 to 35.9 range, and in the evenings we notice most of them will be in the 36 range. Probably they've been out playing the whole day, so they come in a bit warmer. And if they are running a fever, it's similar to us, anything above 37.5 low grade. And that's how we monitor. Besides orangutans, we also take temperatures for our chimps twice daily as well. So in the organization Mandai Wildlife Group, all our grade 8s have their temperature taken twice daily. and keepers have a lot of personal protection they wear. Face mask is a must, and gloves for feeding, cleaning, anything that requires touching the orangutan. So we are very cautious of zoonotic diseases as well. So we take a lot of personal protection when we are working and managing our great apes in in Mandai Wildlife Group.
Right. And I think to what Fransisca also said, that because we are so closely related, right? Diseases, we share a lot of the diseases, and we can pass the flu or TB, or they can, and it comes back as well. So that's why PPE is really, really important.
PPE is priority for us. It's one of our protocols in working with great apes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you for that question. Okay, I think next one would be for Fransisca. What is the movement range of orangutans? Is it quite big? Is there a wide range, or do they tend to stay in a familiar territory?
Thank you for the question. Yep, we'll try to answer. So I think it depends on the sex. Yeah, I mean, for female, they tend to stay in not really big area. I mean, they tend to roaming not really in big area, maybe makes 1 to 2 hectares, I think, or kilometer persegi, but for kilometer square, sorry. And then, but for male, especially for young male, they can roaming in a much bigger area in search of food, and also in orangutan. So orangutan is tend to be solitary. Yeah, actually, it's compared to small primates. They usually small primates is like grouping, but they are much more solitaire. So it's very rare to find orangutan in grouping. Usually male alone, and then if you find a group, usually the maximum is 2 or 3. It consists of mother and the baby. If there are another one, usually that's the young the young, not really young, but the young orangutan. I mean the sibling of the baby orangutan. As the quiz before, orangutan usually kept the baby quite long. Yeah, not like human. Even human, for after 2 years you can leave your baby. I mean, not breastfeeding, etc. But for mother orangutan, they will stay quite long with the kids, the baby orangutan or the young orangutan. So even the young orangutan is already can able to find the food on their own, but they usually not really stay not far from the mother until they are juvenile. Juvenile, they start to roaming in much bigger area. And then also in orangutan, there is a dominant male. So if there is a dominant male in one area, and then there are maybe some females, so that's why the younger one or the non-dominant males usually trying to roaming, because the area has a territory of the dominant male. Yeah. Okay. I hope that's answered.
I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So kind of related as well. How do we track? Do you track orangutan populations? And how is this done? Is it do some of them get a microchip, and that's how you find them? Or?
Yeah. So we do use microchip, but this is more for the orangutan that we rescue. So I think Kumaran also ever seen this. So wherever we rescue orangutan and translocate them, we put the microchip just to make sure that if someday they come to the conflict again, we can just check. Sometimes we like encounter the same orangutan, because some orangutan, even though they are living in the wild, because of the habitat pressure, etc., habitat degradation, etc., they becoming a little bit habituated to human, and they becoming habituated to the availability of food in the farmland. Orangutan loves durian very much, so seems like And then they also can notice if there is a durian ripens, yeah. So that's why they often come to the farmland. And in some cases, maybe they start to enjoying the instant food compared to searching the food, foraging in the forest. And that's why in some cases we ever rescue one orangutan more than twice, especially if we release the orangutan or translocate the orangutan not really far from the original habitat. And the decision to release, usually it's also based on the recommendation of authority. Yeah. So if the authority say that, okay, we release in this area, then we will follow that. And then, but if you are talking about the wild population in general, how we measure, how we calculate the population, how we check the population, we cannot use that. So I said earlier in my presentation that we are going to do a survey to update the orangutan population. So this way we will not do like using microchip, but we do like a survey on orangutan nest. In the quiz, it was a question about orangutan nest. Yes, orangutan make a nest. And every day they make a nest for their the resting place and sleeping place. And the nest, that's the way we calculate the population of orangutan. So we will make a transect line in the area that we are going to survey, and along the transect line we will count how many nests, and if we are lucky to find the orangutan, we also count how many orangutan that we found. And how could the nest be used to measure the orangutan population? Okay, so orangutan tend to make a nest every day, and then we have a classification of the nest. If they are, so we categorize, for example, below 2 weeks old, more 2 weeks old to certain month, and then after that, if it is already the nest is already the leaves already dry at all, then it will be how many weeks old nest. And then from this we can measure how many orangutan in this area by seeing how many nests that made in this area. So this is how we calculate the population. It's a little bit technical, and maybe it's a little bit hard to understand, but that's how we measure it.
Yeah. So
okay.
you have to kind of pick up what you can from the things that the orangutans leave behind, right? Because you won't always get to see them
orangutan,
where to find them. The forest is
exactly.
Thank you for that answer, and thank you for that question.
Thank you for the question. Yes.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one or two more, depending on how many how long the answers are. Okay, there's a question about the orangutan rescues. Would you put down an orangutan if you assess that it's too weak to be released or even rehabilitated? What happens to that orangutan if it's just too, if the condition is just too bad?
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's interesting question. Yeah, we never give up for the orangutan. Even for the orangutan that is very, very weak, we usually try to transport them to the rehabilitation. If, for example, if they are heavily injured or heavily malnourished and too weak, we still keep trying to transporting the orangutan to the rehabilitation center for medical process. Even though maybe some of them cannot make it, sadly couldn't make it, and then died on the way to the rehabilitation center, but we usually still try to bring them. Except if when we rescue, we already found them already dead, then we will do what we call necropsy. So it's a kind of procedure, standard procedure, that we have to conduct a necropsy to find out if it is possible, to find out the cause of the death. And then after that, we will record, and then it's usually should be attended by the government authority, related government authority, and then we will make a report, etc., to the government authority, because orangutan is protected in Indonesia law, so any single activity that we do, it should be known by the government authority.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, I think perhaps the last question would be for Kumaran. Somebody has asked, we have a mixed exhibit in the zoo with gibbons and otters. Is there any chance of cross infection in terms of diseases between these species that are in that same exhibit?
Thanks for the question. No, I think actually there isn't a risk because these animals do coexist together in the wild. And also the different levels where they are at. The otters spend more time on the ground. And besides all that, the orangutans, the gibbons, and even our otters, they go through a regular health examination throughout their time in the zoo. So it's easy to pick up any abnormalities if it's detected. So we have every 3 months, we submit fecal testing for all these animals to make sure that everything is good. And then we have yearly medical examinations for orangutans, a full medical examination, including a heart scan and all that. So when we do multi-species exhibits, we are always taking into consideration cross-species spreading of diseases, but in a captive environment, it's always safe.
Okay, thanks, Kumaran. Thanks for the
Welcome.
question as well. Okay, I think before we end off, I think there was one question about are there any other things to look out for in the labeling besides RSPO? So what else? I guess the question is about what else what kind of labels can we look out for that tell us that a product is sustainable or is sustainably sourced? So I think other certifications that you could look out for and that have very clear labels on the products would be FSC, Forest Stewardship Council. Sorry, forgot the name there. Forest Stewardship Council, and that's really for paper or wood products. Another one you could look out for would be Rainforest Alliance, or you could look out for products that say products like coffee that are shade grown. So shade grown coffee is grown under the canopy of a forest or forest-like area, and kind of keeps habitats of animals intact. The coffee is not grown on land that has been cleared or deforested. Yeah, so these are kind of labels or phrases that you can look out for on your products that might also help the rainforest and orangutans besides RSPO. Okay, so with that, thank you so much for that question, and you know, I can feel that you want to do more, and I hope that this webinar has indeed inspired a few more of you to want to do a bit more and take actions for wildlife and orangutans. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for staying to the end. And Fransisca and Kumaran, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences.
Thank you for having us.
So before you go, we would love to hear how your experience was with this webinar. If you could scan this QR code and just do a really short survey for us, and that helps us to improve for the next time we have another of these conservation champions webinars with and hearing from other conservationists in the field. So with that, thank you so much. I will end this webinar here. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.